You may remember the leadership contest after the 2016 referendum where Cameron had left and there was this great mess that whoever was the next leader was gonna have to, go and clean it up. And remember, at the time, there was no clear indicator that the leader was indeed going to be Theresa May. No one really knew who it might be. There was certainly a list of possible candidates ranging from Boris Johnson to Michael Gove. There were candidates that were there. But as the contest went on, it became very, very clear that some of the candidates quickly then regretted, shall we say, putting their hat into the ring and then quietly took a step back. And as the contest went on, it wound down to being, or at least looked like at the time, it was going to go to a contest between Theresa May and Andrea Jenkins. Is it Andrea Jenkins, that was it. That appeared at the time to be what the contest was going to be. However, almost at the 11th hour, she steps down. In comes Theresa May. And remember at the time when we were doing videos about this, when we were talking about this, we were constantly talking about the poison chalice that it was. Everyone knew this was going to be a completely thankless job, a thankless session of being this particular Prime Minister having to deal with this mess. And ultimately, what we have seen in the wake and the results of the Tory recent election, knowing full well they're going to go into an election where they are going to lose, where time and time again, I have said, well, even if they change to someone like Penny Mordaunt, James Cleverly, pick your contest, even someone like Kimmy Badenoch, what are they going to do to actually turn the situation around? Almost immediately after winning, they will be put in a situation where the public outcry over this would have to definitely be calling for a general election. And ultimately, in a bizarre, ironic case, this is what has saved Rishi Sunak, that the prospects of winning are so dire, so abysmal, no one wants his job. I mean, talk about a bizarre form of job security. Being in such a dire situation that absolutely no one wants your job, even no one likes you and would love to see you go. No one wants your job. And what we have seen after this now is a jostling by these different candidates now preparing for life after Sunak, all jostling for a potential leadership race after this defeat. And oh boy, is there some serious anger at this. So, before we do go getting into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below as well. So, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel. And of course, as always, on we go with this. So, oh my. Oh my. They're all effing at it. Tory anger at leadership jostling after local elections. So it was shortly after 8 p.m. on Friday that Rishi Sunak knew he no longer had to worry about his leadership challenge. The first tranche of the local election results were very bleak for the Conservatives, with over half of their sitting councillors now defeated and a big win for Labour in Blackpool South in the by-election. But crucially, after weeks of claiming that the local elections would now be a trigger for MPs to submit enough no-confidence letters to spark a vote on Sunak's future, one of the few declared rebels admitted defeat. And we've seen this stepping back. They're all off to the pub to wait for this, to blow over. They're off to the Winchester to have a pint, wait for this to all blow over. I mean, you can't blame them because I said at the beginning of this video, who do you put in? Who on earth could you put in to take Rishi Sunak's position that would somehow do a better job or turn the ship around? Because remember, this is why Sunak was put in place, that he could turn the ship around. And yet, in over a year, what exactly has he done? What exactly has he achieved? So, Dame Andrea Jenkins, a devoted follower of the Johnson, told the Today programme on BBC Radio 4, saying, "I am not sure that my colleagues are going to be putting letters in." She argued the Prime Minister now should take a rightward turn on policy and bring in more of Mr. Johnson's allies into the cabinet. Bear in mind, one of the things they've really looked at, and I mean really, really looked at, is why on earth did Rishi Sunak feel that he had to bring in David Cameron from the House of Lords? And when you look at it, the reality is there was just so few good talent left on the Tory benches. Sunak didn't dare risk it, giving it to anyone else or someone who might just cause an absolute disaster. So that's why eventually he had to call Cameron in. And I think time will eventually prove maybe we'll do that whenever we get the, I don't know, Sunak at 10. Like we've had May at 10, Johnson at 10. When we get, I don't know, Rishi at 10. It'll be Sunak or Rishi at 10. From Andrew Sheldon and Raymond Newley, I can guarantee you there will be a chapter dedicated to the internal politicking and the reasoning from various insiders as to why they had to bring in David Cameron. And I can guarantee you it will all come down to the fact there was no one on the backbenches they felt was qualified enough or would not cause a stir or would not eventually pose a potential leadership challenge to Rishi Sunak. So, this moment was, of course, greeted with relief inside number 10. A Downing Street source said it was Andrea Jenkins who killed it when she said the letters won't happen. The source expressed wonder at all the publicity and the small band of plotters had attracted, despite failing to attract a critical letter of support on the backbenches, saying those minority of MPs had the most astounding number of print columns written about them. Yeah, because their media bosses hate the fact of the direction that it is Sunak is going to lose them. They want someone who seems to be willing, to actually put up a fight. Sunak seems to be, well, going into this general election, and he's going to go, well, I'm Rishi Sunak. I was your prime minister. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I'll turn the lights off out on my way out. That seems to be how that's going to be. And that's why you've had these numerous columns dedicated to these people, because there are those people in the media who want to see this dynamic change, who believe that, oh, well, Johnson managed to turn all this around. Why can't we do the same now? Not realizing, of course, again, Johnson's personality, Brexit, the levelling up promise, all the stuff that came from Johnson brought with it for his electoral magic does not transfer now over to Rishi Sunak. That was almost like this one-time thing in this sort of coalition. And it has been proved time and time again that the Tories hate a loser. And there is no bigger loser right now in their party than Rishi Sunak. So, honestly, there's going to be more rebellions. What reason do you have to be loyal to Rishi Sunak? They're going to a parliamentary recess in just a couple of months anyway, which will, I suppose give him some breathing room. But what do you do? But there you go. So the loyal MPs of Sunak want their now unhappy colleagues to now unite behind the Prime Minister, despite the reservations or risk letting Labour in by default. One senior backbencher said to the Eye, "Our activists and voters want to stop all this overhyped media speculation, unite behind the Prime Minister, and continue to deliver on the people's national and local priorities with our conservative values for lower taxes, lower inflation, making work pay, securing our borders, and getting better value for money in public services." Well, you could have been doing that, and for not even just the past 14 years, but the past year. Sunak hasn't done that. He's done none of that. He's put forward no policies to be able to do or achieve any of that. He's done nothing. We've had a zombie parliament, and right now we've got even a more zombie parliament ever evident, now more so than ever. Because why do you have to be loyal to Sunak? Ben Houchen, even though he won, has proven, if you distance yourself from Rishi Sunak, that actually might get you some street cred. That shows you might be a winner. And as I just said, the Tories hate a loser. They like a winner like Ben Houchen. They're going to start maybe trying copying his example of, arguing with Rishi Sunak in public or disagreeing with him in public spaces to show their street cred. This uniting that the Sunak loyalists want ain't going to happen. This was meant to happen before the local elections. It lasted barely a week. So honestly, it will not be long before they are back fighting each other. So back to it. So a cabinet minister also expressed bafflement that the idea of replacing leader would ever have been a seriously good idea, saying, "I do not think there was ever really a serious threat. What would they do if they managed to oust Rishi? Who would they get?" It's what I've been saying all this time. Who do you get? What do they do? How do they turn this around? And if they can do that, why isn't Rishi Sunak doing that already? Anyway, another party grandee said that the MPs had gone a little bit crazy, but expressed the optimism about the possibility of the Conservative unity between now and the election, saying he feels as though everyone recognises that the more the Tory psychodrama is, there's not really what the electorate want. You're only going to guarantee just more of that. Even if they calm down, roll on to a general election, and there is, quote, unity, it's hardly going to be the most enthusiastic of campaigning by these ministers. And honestly, once again, this unity is only going to be skin deep. Scratch it, and it's all going to come to the surface again. This is what has happened time and time again. The more we have seen this throughout Sunak's reign, he is not a leader. He is not able to keep these people under control. What reason do you have to be loyal to Sunak, especially if you've said you're already going? You've already resigned, but you're going to see out your term. Why do you have to be loyal? What's Sunak going to do? Remove the whip? You're already leaving the party anyway. Oh, but even though this now immediate threat to Sunak seems to have faded, many senior Tories seem to be eyeing up the life after Sunak with the expected general election defeat and potential leadership contest. This is what they are now eyeing up because, hey, you've got no reason to be loyal to Sunak now. Might as well start planning for life after him. We are going to now start seeing all sorts of campaigns and all these stuff. There's going to be talk of people on Manoeuvre, positioning themselves and all this stuff. Yeah, expect these now to start flaring up, and they're going to start attacking each other and attacking Rishi Sunak. Because who's the person with the biggest target on their back? Rishi Sunak. But even though the immediate threat to Sunak now seems to have faded, so one former cabinet minister did suggest that the reason for the anti-Sunak rebels have folded so easily is that the most would-be leaders of the future want him to own the loss, so that they can now start with a blank slate. This is actually something you've seen. This is something you have seen. and something so far Sunak has yet to do. Actually, we'll see if this comes to fruition. But they want him to sort of come forward and say that oh, all this loss, this is all on me, so that they can, as they said, start with a fresh slate, saying, oh well, I might have been in the cabinet, but you know what? Wasn't my fault. All this chaos, all this psychodrama, wasn't my fault. That was all. That was all Rishi's doing. Sunak ain't gonna do that. No way. If he hasn't done this already, he ain't gonna do it in the future. Another MP did complain. We all know they are on manoeuvres. Grant Shapps is on manoeuvres. Penny Mordaunt is on manoeuvres. She's never not been on manoeuvres. Kimmy Badenoch is at it as well. They're all effing at it. Even Tom Tugendhat. But the reality is, if they shift him, it's going to be a complete effing meltdown. It's for the birds. So they are all on manoeuvres, and make note of those names. So you've got Penny Mordaunt, Grant Shapps, Tom Tugendhat, Kimmy Badenoch. Any of those that do manage to survive the general election, and Penny Mordaunt looks like she's not going to survive, but if any of those do survive, these will be people be throwing their potential hat into the ring, and they're already starting their campaign now. Ultimately, people going on manoeuvres behind the scenes is not a very good look for a sitting prime minister, regardless of whoever it is that happens to be in charge. This is going to start infighting. This is going to start so much stuff. But back to this. So Mr. Shapps, the Defence Secretary, is also to have understood to have hosted a Schnaps with Snaps event, while the Commons leader, Miss Mormont, is this week denying having invited colleagues to Pims with Penny evenings. Why do they always call them stuff like this, like Schnaps with Snaps or Pims with Penny? Even Liz Truss called their stuff like, I can't remember what it was, what Truss called meetings now. It was like the, I can't remember what they called them now. Oh, that's going to be annoying. But I know they called them something. Someone will call them down in the chats, because for some reason they like doing this. They like associating themselves with some sort of name. But there you go. So anyway, all members of the cabinet now insist that they are, quote, fully behind Sunak and focusing on winning the next general election. Of course they are. Of course they are, with their fingers right behind the back, with the, the keys crossed. Yeah, we're totally with Mr. Sunak. He says, well, of course, here, happen to hand out a flyer for a little soiree we're having this evening. Yeah, totally behind with Sunak. Just, Sunak just happens not to get invited to these little parties that we're having. Anyway, the one minister also remarked, I do not know how my colleagues can continuously or even patriotically do their jobs properly while also trying to host constant drinks parties for MPs. Hey, it's true. How are they doing their jobs while they're doing this? That's a valid point. So beyond the cabinet, there is also a struggle amongst the backbenchers as to present themselves as the champion of the grassroots, with Dame Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, and Robert Jerrick all thought to be now considering a tilt at the leadership when there is a vacancy. So, of course, they're going to have a dabble at this as well. And once again, I wouldn't be surprised if they're hosting their own drinks party. But hey, at least they're not in cabinet, sitting on the back benches. They've got, oodles of time, They don't have their duties as an MP to be performing. Oh, dear. So even though all the MPs now seem to have accepted that Sunak will now lead into the election, the internal bickering continues. One minister joked in a reference to the scandal which brought down a backbencher, Mark Mackenzie's, after being asked an aide to pay thousands of pounds to him out of an apparent blackmail, saying, being stuck in a house with bad people is like being a member of the Conservative Parliamentary Party. Oh, yes, indeed. honestly, this continues. I'm still waiting. I'm shocked that we haven't had any angry local councillors. I am still waiting for Andy Street, because I can guarantee you Andy Street will come out of the woodwork at some point, writing some blog or an article somewhere where he says, well, actually, this is why we lost. I would love to see what his explanation for that particular loss is. We'll see what happens. But don't worry, I am keeping a very watchful eye on this already. So the next video is going to be about some Tory salt worrying about Reform UK. So don't worry, there's still plenty of salt to come and flow through. So don't worry, we'll be bringing you that next time. So, of course, if you want to stay tuned to that, please do remember to click the like, the share, the subscribe button. Remember to hit the bell icon as well, so you get a notification of that when the video comes. And, of course, as always, thank you very much to all the people who do help support the channel. Like I say, all the links down below, etc., etc. And, of course, we'll see you all next time.